This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of Michelob Ultra Beer.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome, everyone, to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm sure happy you're here and along for the ride with me. We got a great show coming up today, one that I've been very excited to get this lady on the phone. I'll tell you a little bit more about her momentarily. What's Working is the show designed to bring you the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace trends shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around us. If you've not listened before, my goal is to find guests that have a business story to tell that can teach us something with the hopes, with the goals that you and I can take what they teach us and apply it to our own little worlds in some way to make each of us just a little bit better. Again, welcome, and I'm glad you're along for the ride. Each of us, I'm sure, if you're a parent, has had some point to raise money for something for your children. We've been given tasks to get them to T-ball games and raise money around that, to tournaments, raise money around that. My family's been into volleyball for years, and there's always seems to be some sort of fundraiser surrounding volleyball, and it's just kind of one of these pills that you have to take as a part of being a parent of a child in sports. That's kind of what you do. And the parents make eye contact, roll their eyes, and go, here we go again. We can't wait for this day to be gone. The guest we're going to have today has a similar story to tell. Hers wasn't about athletics. Hers was about sending her children overseas on kind of a tour, an educational tour. Children were young, and she needed to figure out a way to generate revenue and get her kids to these things. So what did she do? And I'm not going to steal the thunder for her story. I want her to tell it when she gets on the line. She and her husband at the time dug into a treasure chest of recipes, created something or began to cook something, to bake something specifically, that had been in that treasure chest of recipes for years that they pulled out from time to time. And now that product is sold at Sam's. So an effort to get her kids overseas for a class trip has led to her being sold on what they call Sam's tours or Sam's road shows. A huge revenue generator. I mean, their numbers for what's been shared with me are impressive. We will, when we come back from break, meet April McClung. She's in the Birmingham area. She was introduced to me by the team at Business Alabama. If you're a regular listener, you'll know that each month we try to feature one story out of Business Alabama magazine and go into the weeds with them, get a little deep with them on their story, where they've come from, their et cetera. What the Business Alabama magazine doesn't get into due to space limitations, we try to get into with the guests that we're introduced to. And Business Alabama introduced me to April McClung. And like I said, when we get back from break, she will be on the line with me telling her story of Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes. And I have one in front of me. As we're recording this, it's quite early in the day. It's the only time I could get April on the phone, but I'm having a little bit of pound cake for breakfast. I figured it's only appropriate that I eat this pound cake while I speak to this woman. It's a business expense after all. It arrived 2 days ago. I've told my wife and kids to stay out of it until today. We opened it up for breakfast. We each had some around the breakfast table, and now I've brought some into my office, and we'll get into it momentarily. So again, when we're back from break, you'll have April McClung on the line with me. She runs Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes. One of the things you may be interested in, one of the things that I'm up to these days is I'm prepping for a presentation next week in Baltimore. It's an interesting destination, Baltimore. Nevertheless, it's a group of physicians, and their question is, how do we try to figure out the culture of execution that needs to happen around our hospital system in order to get things done. And one of their challenges is these newest members of their workforce, these new doctors, residency was easier than the job. Now, back in the day, those doctors would say there was nothing as hard as residency. But the way the plan has been changed, the way training doctors has been changed, they've had to change how residency is done. And now these hospital systems are trying to figure out creating cultures of execution. This is what I do. Give presentations on doing that. If you're looking for a keynote speaker or something like that for your corporate event or association, give me a call. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be right back.
When making the largest investment choice in most families' financial portfolio, you need a realtor who truly understands the market and can negotiate favorable terms and conditions. I'm Angelo DiPaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, the preferred real estate advisor for buying or selling along the Gulf Coast. For full access to the MLS in Mobile, Baldwin County, Pensacola, Destin, or Panama City, just Google Angelo DiPaola, the Coastal Connection.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm on a Zoom call today. On the other side of the call is April McClung. She runs Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes out of the Pelham, Alabama area. She's the cover story article for Business Alabama this month, the May issue of Business Alabama. And her story is one of the more compelling ones I've heard in a long time, and I'm going to let her tell it. Good morning, April. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Good morning. Thank you for the invite.
I'm glad to have you. Your story is absolutely fantastic. But before we get into that, tell me about what I'm eating here. I'm having some of your pound cake. It arrived a couple of days ago. Once we set up the the interview, I placed an order for it. I kept the kids out of it until this morning. Tell me a little bit about this thing. It came in the form of a long cube, I guess, a long rectangle.
Yes, that is the original heirloom loaf. That's the loaf cake. It is the same batter as the round. It's just that we decided to start that loaf cake so that we can cut slices. We never dreamed that we would be shipping the loaf all over the country.
Really?
Never dreamed. That was not the intent. What you're eating is an all butter, crusty top, grandma approved,
yes,
made with love pound cake, and it is delicious.
It is delicious. And when it came in the mail, it was much heavier than I thought. I don't think it's a pound. It's like a 7-pound cake.
It is a 5-pound pound cake.
5-pound pound cake, and it's really, really tasty. And I'm going to be snacking on this as you and I go through this interview. I got a cup of coffee. I got some pound cake. And my poor producer, John Thompson, who is just going, oh my gosh, I'm going to get noise of him eating and drinking all during the episode. Yeah, John. Yeah, you are. You sure are. Because this is a legit show. And we're legit eating the pound cake. April, the materials that you sent me and that I got from Business Alabama, as well as it came with the pound cake, said the pound cake was born out of you trying to raise money to get your kids on some trips. Tell me more about that.
That's correct. So what happened was my older son completed Mandarin 1 and 2 in high school. And it got really difficult. After the first year, he was like, Mom, I'm not going to do this anymore, because that was my AB student. He said, I'm barely getting a C out of this class. This stuff is hard. And I said, no, baby, you want to go to University of Alabama. It requires 2 years of language. This is about education. And if there's ever anything that mama can do to help you, I will. So we fast forward to the second year. So I kind of twisted his arm to make him, since he wanted to go down that path, because I tried to get him to take Spanish.
Sure.
I'm originally from South Florida. I can conjugate a few verbs and, speak the lingo. He was like, no, mama, because of the indebtedness of America to China. And I thought, okay, that's where you want to go.
No kidding. So I think there's a whole show in that. The kid chose Mandarin due to America's debt to China?
Absolutely. This is why he chose China. So the next school year, this would have been his senior year, my baby boy, he kind of struggled in school all throughout. And he went to school with a lot of wealthy kids. Both of my sons went to school with kids with elevators in their homes.
Dang.
And while we are, middle class, we didn't have the means to send them out of the country. We took vacations, but they were, local kinds of things. And so I get this opportunity to send him to Europe, 20 days, 7 countries, with 39 other students in the metropolitan Birmingham and Tuscaloosa area.
Yeah.
And so it was $7,200 for the trip, because that's really what was on the hook. It was never about the Mandarin. It was never about the China trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to Sanford to see, how much this thing cost, what was going on. And I just fell in love with all of the speakers, the parents that got up and said, it was as if the light bulb went off for my child.
Yeah.
And I needed the light bulb to go off for my child.
Sure.
And I came home and I told my husband at the time, I don't care how much this thing costs. Our kid needs it. And he knows I'm the one that used to get up with him at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to reteach him everything he learned in school. So, he knew. He was like, okay, let's sign him up. Well, it was through a company called People to People.
Mm-hmm.
I go on the computer and I'm looking through, because you have to navigate through all of these trips, because People to People goes all over the world. I'm looking for the Europe trip, and lo and behold, here's a trip to China.
Yeah.
And so that's when all of the memories of the conversations that I had had with my older son, who's about to graduate, he was 16 at the time, or about to turn 16. That's when all of that started to come back. And I said, you know what? We should just send him to China and let the younger boy go the next year.
Yeah.
And so, because we didn't have $7,200, more less than $14,000.
Yeah.
So I go to my husband at the time and I said, okay, here's the deal. I think we should switch this up. And he says, no, I want you to send them both, because God's going to provide.
No kidding.
No kidding. So at the time, he was a minister, and one that truly harped on faith. And I didn't feel like a lecture that day.
Yeah.
And so I remember, I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to sign both of these kids up. And as I did it, there was just a feeling of excitement and like, oh my God, my kids are going to get to do something that I've never done, that this is going to be so wonderful for them. And then about a week later, because at the time I'm in corporate America, and I had been there since I was 21 years old, right? And done a lot of things in corporate America. So I'm that kind of girl that crosses every T and dots every I.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came home about a week later, after signing them up, it hits me. We are on the hook for over $1,000 a month. Like, how the heck are we going to come up with this money? And so I walk in the door, and like, before I say hello or anything, I look him in the face and I say, how are we going to come up with this money? We got to come up. And he was like, we're going to pray. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, we always pray. That's what we do. We're a praying family. And so he calls the boys together, the 4 of us. We stand in the foyer. We hold hands, and he says a very simple prayer. Very simple prayer. At the conclusion of the prayer, we break hands. My kids go to the back room, their rooms. I go to the kitchen, because I'm an excellent cook.
Yeah.
It's what I love to do. It's just I wasn't a baker. My ex-husband was the baker.
Yeah.
Miss Emily was his grandmother.
Yeah.
And we had been married at the time 17 years, and he had been baking her pound cake, since we had been married. And it was one of those things where if we went to a function or people came to our house, because we hosted a lot, he would make this pound cake, maybe about 4 or 5 times a year. And so in a loud voice, he said, I need everybody in the house to stop.
No kidding.
And so I turn around. I'm like, okay, no kidding. I'm like, okay, who's pissed him off? What's happened?
Right.
And so I look around the corner, and he says, with this really weird look, he says, the Spirit says, what about the pound cake? And I said, the pound cake? Dude, you're the only one know how to make that pound cake, because when you're married, for those of us who know, when your spouse knows how to do something as a woman, you let him. You don't intervene in that.
Right.
And so that's how it started. So the kids would come home from school, and he began to teach all of us how to make this pound cake. Now, fortunate for me, I have an MBA.
Yeah.
And so I know how to do a little marketing. And so I started marketing the heck out of this thing, sending letters to everybody we knew about, here is the opportunity that my sons are going to get to have. And then we got this $40 pound cake. That's how much it was at the fundraiser. So this is how the fundraiser was born.
Yeah. And for the story, what I read in the story, you went to, what's the word I'm looking? It's not fair. You went to
a farmer market.
Farmers markets. That's what the words I couldn't find.
So this is how it started. So what happened was I went to work, obviously, and there were 4 departments, right, at the job that I worked at, the corporate environment. And I told all my girlfriends, okay, I got this cake, and we only had the round.
Yeah.
I would cut this cake up and I would give it to all my girlfriends in different departments. There were $2 a slice at that time. And they would come back every week with the pan with nothing but money, no cake. Right. So one of my coworkers in my department said, girl, you ever heard of a farmer market? You would sell a gazillion of these. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I'd never been to a farmer market. And so I start calling. And they said, well, we're closed now because it was like October-ish, right? September, October. But we're going to reopen in like April or May. And so I said, okay. So we started just kind of selling it at the school, selling it around or whatever. But when the farmer markets opened, the first one I went to was Soho, downtown Homewood.
Yeah.
And it was my first kind of rodeo with this type of thing. They give you a tent, you pay $30. I want to say we brought our own table, and then we had a little tablecloth. And I remember how plain my table looked. I remember when I first started, and I would look at some other vendors who obviously had been doing this for some time, and I was like, God, that is so nice. I wonder if we'll ever get anything like that. But it became week after week after week, we would go to these farmer markets, and it got really scary because it would rain. I remember crying, I'm baking, 10-pound cakes a week. I mean, for me, that was a lot, between me and my sons. And you know how kids are. So, it turned into a me show. I'm doing all the baking and whatnot. They're selling it at their school. And it would be raining, or we would know it's going to rain. And I start crying. I'm like, how in the world? What are we going to do? We got all these cakes. And he was like, I would never forget. He would say, girl, the same God, we're going to speak to this. We're going to speak to this storm, and we're going to go out there and sell these cakes. And I'd be doggone if we didn't.
No kidding.
I'd be doggone. The stories that I can tell, the things that I have seen since we started this, is just quite amazing. Yeah. So from that farmer market, we end up going to another, and in 9 months.
We'll pick this up when we get back from break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm on the line on a Zoom call with April McClung. She's telling the story of Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes. It's a compelling story. We'll learn more when we get back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston.
I'm Paul Lewis, General Manager of Roy Lewis Construction. Many of our commercial buildings you drive by daily on both sides of the bay are the fruits of our client relationship since our beginning in the early 80s. It is our mission to bring value to our clients, from retrofits to ground-up construction and everything in between. We have more advocates than any of our competitors who have been in business twice as long. Same with repeat business, same with referrals. Find us online at roylewisconstruction.com and let's talk about your next commercial project.
Hey, this is Cam Marston. My What's Working radio show has given me a front row seat to what's going on in today's workplace and workforce. I'm taking what I've learned and delivering it as a live presentation. If your company, team, or association is looking for a speaker to kick off or wrap up your event, check out my presentations at my website, cammarston.com, or find me on YouTube to watch some sample videos. You can expect actionable and relevant content delivered with lots of humor. On my site, you can find my client list and testimonials. I welcome your calls and your emails. Reach out. Let's find a way to deliver fresh, thought-provoking, actionable content to your event. April McClung and I are on a Zoom call together. She's in the Pelham, Alabama area. She's running a company called Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes, and I have one in front of me, snacking on it as we go through this show. It's absolutely delicious. April, prior to the break, you were telling me a little bit about the farmers markets. The rains would come. Your husband at that time said the same God that gave us this idea is going to deal with the rain for us. Let's pick it up from there.
All right. And so basically, we started with that one farmer market. What turned into that same company started another farmer market that was closer to my job. I started getting comp times. Things start moving around at my job. I mean, it was weird. I went on a TDY. I start getting comp time, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with all this comp time? Lo and behold, there was another farmer market. And so I would pack my cakes up on a Thursday, put them in the car, go to that farmer market. It was at the Summit. And at the end of 9 months, we had raised over $14,000 with 1 pound cake recipe. So
let me get this straight. The idea came. 9 months later, you had raised the money. Were you keeping it in a jar behind the cookie jar or something under your pillow, outside buried or something like that?
No. So what happened was I would create spreadsheets because I'm a spreadsheet kind of girl to figure out exactly how much money we need to raise every month. And so as we raised the money, I was sending it on to pay for the trips.
Oh, I see.
So by the time we got to June, July, and the kids were traveling, it was all paid for. And I made a lot of contacts.
Yeah. Tell me about QVC and Sam's.
Okay. So here we are 8 years later. We're going to celebrate 9 years in July. We're producing over 5,000 packet slices a month, hundreds of cakes. We ship these all over the country. Mm-hmm. I'm also on Amazon. I'm on Walmart.com. I do a Sam's Club roadshow in 6 states. So what happened with Sam's in 2017, I got the opportunity to give my elevator pitch, which is why I'm so good at it. On a show called MSNBC Your Business. And you can Google it and you can actually watch it. And after giving the elevator pitch, I had to video it, send it, all of that. About 3 weeks later, they contacted me and said that I was one of the candidates that was selected. They flew me to Secaucus, New Jersey. With bunches and bunches of cakes. And in one of the larger Sam's Clubs there, that's when they had a host, JJ Ramsey, I think was her name, JJ something. And then they had the people there from Sam's Club. We set it all up with cakes and the loaf and all kinds of sample. And the judges sampled and they were blown away. And then they began to ask me, where did you get this recipe? And da-da-da-da-da. And so the host said, well, this is your thing. Are you going to give her an opportunity to be in Sam's Club? And they said, absolutely. Yeah. And so this is how, at the time, I had no distribution. I had a van. Yeah. And when they asked me how I wanted to connect with Sam's, all I knew was roadshow. Yeah. And a roadshow, today they call it pop-up. But what a roadshow is, I can go to any Sam's Club in the country. I just have to, get it approved online. And it's a very simple process. 95% of the time they say yes. The only time they would say no is if there's too much stuff going on in the club. I can stay there up to 12 days. I can rotate around wherever I want to go and sell my product. Everything has UPC codes. We've done, before the pandemic, we did what we call a man show. So just like I was set up at the farmer market, that's how I set up in Sam's. Yeah. But after the pandemic, we started doing what we call an unmanned road show. That's what you see primarily today. So we're not there actually sampling, but there's a display and we have a banner with my picture. That's how you know it's me. And customers just walk up to the display, take the cake and check out, either with scan and go or at the front.
So you've gotten some awards. I'm looking here at one of 5 America's Retail Champions by the National Retail Foundation.
That's correct.
Federation, rather.
That's
and
correct.
Alabama Retailer of the Year in 2021. Not lots of people, but a couple of influential organizations have discovered you. What has that done for you?
That is so, by the grace of God, I have, for whatever reason, I've always gotten a lot of media attention. Mm-hmm. My first television deal was down in Selma in 2015, ABC 3340. This time I was in corporate America still working. But they did this TV interview with us, and we went down to Selma for the 50th anniversary. We were the official cake of the Jubilee down there. that is really what put me on the map. Then after then I was in Walgreens. I did, my slices sat on the counter in 25 Walgreens in the metropolitan Birmingham, Tuscaloosa area. And then what came first? Alabama Retailer. Yeah. I believe because I went to get my workers' comp. This is how I come to know Alabama Retailer. I got my workers' comp through them, and then they discovered me. Yeah. They do interviews and they find out about their members. So that's how that came. QVC came during the pandemic. QVC wanted to use their economic engine to spotlight 20 Black businesses. I don't know whether it was Black businesses or woman-owned businesses. I just know there were a lot of Black women, so I'm assuming that there were some Black businesses that they wanted to support. And I was one of the ones that was selected. Yeah. And what they did was a Zoom kind of deal. It was August 29th. I'll never forget. I got over 1,000 orders in one day. Oh, wow. It was like a $22,000 day. It was the most amazing thing. I was aired all over 8 networks. I was on QVC. I was on HSN. It was the most amazing thing ever. And so for a little kid like me, that's pretty exciting.
That's really exciting. Tell me about the moment when you said, I think I need to quit the corporate job and get into here. Tell me, that's a transition. I know there are people listening going, I've always had this passion. It may not be cakes. It may be bicycles. It may be this. It may be that. What is that transition point when you said, okay, I'm throwing all my eggs in this cake batter, for lack of a better term, for a poor analogy?
So I was just beat up. Let me explain what happened. It was never my intent to start a business. I didn't want a business. I saw my ex-husband go through some really tough time and fail at business. I was already making a very, very good income. I was very good at what I did. So that wasn't my dream. It wasn't like I said, like, oh my God, I want this business. It wasn't that at all. What happened after we started getting all of this notoriety, after the kids had traveled and I'm at this, at the job, and I start going to all these meetings. I start joining BNIs, just trying to see where this could go. We got into a commercial kitchen. That's a whole nother story. Very shortly after we started the business, because right after the fundraiser, we started the business. Right, we would go on the weekends and we would cook up, enough for the week, and then because I have management skills, I would find stay-at-home moms. I would find different people who wanted to go and do markets during the week. I was running 7 markets during the week before I ever left my corporate job. And this was a spiritual thing. I would hear the Spirit speak to me. No joke. I know you might think I'm crazy. I was sitting at my desk and I heard the Spirit say to me, the cake is good, but the anointing is in the story. Oh. And I'm just shaking like a leaf. I'm like, what? And so what happened was, it got to a point where I was so exhausted after 1 year of trying to be in corporate America and trying to do this thing. I felt like I'm trying to give birth. There's something I'm supposed to do. There's a calling here. And after about a year, I threw my hands up. And I said, Lord, wherever you send me, I'll go. Because I would sit at my desk and like, this ain't what I want to do. I want to retire. I'm going to retire from this company. And just thing after thing after thing after thing would happen. And I just got beat up and worn down. And I said, you know what? I'm going for it. And I will tell you, when I stand behind behind my table, because that is probably the best part of what I do. I do a lot of stuff in running this company, but being the face of the company and sampling my cake and telling my story, anybody I open this cake up to, you have to hear my story because I'm obedient to the word. I'm obedient to the Spirit. This is what he says, tell the story. That story and sampling that cake, I swear to you, I've seen grown men 6'2" stand there and boohoo cry. The first time it happened, I was like, what on earth? And then I start realizing we've tapped into nostalgia.
You've tapped into something that they know is true, but they're afraid to admit. And April, you're not the first one that has left their business and pursued a calling to extraordinary rewards. I keep interrupting you. Please continue.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. But we've tapped into something that it took me a while to realize what was happening, because remember, I'm not a person who grew up making cakes.
Right.
I didn't realize how emotional cake can be. And I don't think it's just cake. I think it's food in general, especially good food. But this cake reminds people of grandmothers and great grandmothers and grandfathers, people who loved on them with something really special like a cake.
Yeah.
And people haven't had this taste in so long. And when they taste it and I tell them the story, it just brings out all kinds of emotions. People curse, they cry, they scream, they dance, they shout. I wish I could video because I've been doing this a long time. I do it in Sam's. I do it in 5 states now.
Yeah. April, it's a remarkable story. And when we come back, I've got a list of questions here for you. I sent them to you in advance that I think will be fun to get to know you outside of the cake world. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Zoom call with April McClung. We'll be right back after this break.
Is paying a real estate agent worth the money? I'm Angelo DiPaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty. Great real estate agents are like the best doctors. They listen deeply, make your goals their own, stay current on trends that impact your decisions, and have experience navigating unexpected situations. We help our clients make the best real estate decisions along the Gulf Coast. Google me, Angelo DiPaola, the Coastal Connection.
Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the other side of a Zoom call is April McClung. Her business is Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes. And some of the feedback we've gotten on the show is, hey, we love these business stories from these people, but let's get to know them a little bit. So I threw together 10 questions that are designed to get to know April a little bit more. They range far, well, heck, why should I tell you about them when I'm going to ask you? April, I sent you these in advance. Here we go. Question number 1. What's your favorite business book?
Let's see. So if I'm really honest, I don't read as much as I need to read, but I have a consultant and we've been working on that. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad is one.
Yeah.
And the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that's one that I'm currently reading.
I love that one.
Yep.
I love that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. What one trend in the marketplace excites you about your business?
That people will support local. You know, before I got into this, I don't know that I supported local. I don't think I really understood it the way that I understand it now, but it's an amazing thing to see people supporting us, you know, out here.
Are you part of the story in Business Alabama magazine are some of the orders you get around Christmas time, big gifts from corporates to one to another? Are you seeing, do you know if those orders are coming to you because of your localness?
I believe so. I believe a lot of that. That's how it starts. We get $40,000-$50,000 orders. I mean, it is massive for us to be, a small business. It is incredible what happens at the end of the year.
That's true. I guess you got to prepare for those things. Start making cakes, lots of cakes around Thanksgiving, I would guess.
Yeah, we make it happen. We've never not fulfilled an order on time.
I love it. I absolutely love it. What one trend in the marketplace worries you?
The price of basic necessities, eggs, butter, gas. My product is more of a luxury product. So when people can't afford the basic things, they tend not to buy cake. And so that's one of the things that bothers me, that worries me. The other is the inability to find quality people for a fair price. I don't mind paying for, paying for what someone's worth, but there are a lot of people out there asking for big money, and they're just not giving the value in exchange for it.
So the media has loved the story of the price of eggs, the extraordinary price of eggs. You've got to be seeing that as well.
I am. And it's tough. I have a very expensive product because it's all butter. Butter is very expensive, and eggs. And, but I got to make a profit. I'm in business to make a profit. So the price of the cake has to go up. So,
One of the most common questions I'm getting in the other side of my work is, where do we find people? Where are you finding these people? You did say they're valuing themselves ridiculously high, some of them, but where are they coming from?
Well, for what we do, so I hire a lot of different people. For the kitchen, my son is side by side with me. So between him and I no longer cook, by the way. My son hires the staff, and we have a really small staff that we've had for some time. Okay. When I do need people, we go to employment agencies.
Yeah.
We'll do employment agencies or word of mouth. I also hire people in Sam's Clubs to do the unmanned shows. So I hire them. I'm in a large sorority. So I'll go on Facebook and I will put my ad out there and say, hey, if anybody needs a job, if you got a niece or daughter, son, whatnot, I do that. And I'll use Indeed if I have to.
So you've got a son working with you. Is this the Mandarin or the Spanish son?
It's the Mandarin.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to see. It's so exciting to see your kid love with what you love.
Yeah.
And he's beginning, he's young. He's 25, and, being with 25-year-olds, that's a whole nother a story. But to see it start clicking for him to understand, because he thinks mama is over the top. Yeah. Oh, mama, it don't take all that. Oh, son, it absolutely does.
I get a little of that. My oldest isn't 25. She's 20, but I get a little of that and one of these days, I hope one of these days her eyes open and say, okay, Dad, I see what it takes now. You're not crazy. You might be crazy, but there's a reason for it. What's the biggest business mistake you've ever made?
Oh my God. So, I do events.
Yeah.
One year when I was starting out, because I'm very honest and transparent, I'm a bootstrapper. That's kind of how he started off. I didn't go get loans. I didn't go do that. If I needed money, I went out there and made the money. Well, I went swinging for the fences and decided to take out this small loan to work a big show that boasts of about 250,000 people. And I was going to pay the money back the Monday after the show. It was a 4-day show. And how about a hurricane hit? No joke.
I'm laughing out of sadness and pity, but it's just brings
oh my God. It was the worst year because I took out one of those high interest rate loans where they take out the money every day. Baby, it almost took me under. I cried every day. I was like, Lord, if you get me out of this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry to hear that.
I know it, but that was it.
I think they call it a force majeure in the contracts. Like, we're not responsible for that. Oh, man. Yep. I'm sorry to hear that. All right. How about this one? What is your favorite news source for business content? Do you follow any news? Any business news?
Okay. I do. I look at a lot of journals for my local news, like Business Alabama, Alabama Retailer, Birmingham Business Journal. I'm also affiliated with NRF, National Retailer Federation.
Yeah.
That was one that you start talking about. They named me one of 5 America's.
There it is. Yeah.
What is it? 5 America's retailers or something like that. But I travel to DC and help advocate for them.
Oh,
you know,
do you?
I mean, it's for me too, for small business. It's not just for them, but I work with them a lot. So I get a lot of news from them as well regarding retailing and small businesses.
It's good to hear you're contributing to your industry in that way, involved
Absolutely.
in the industry. All right. So this is
absolutely
one of the ones that I study generational preferences in the workplace and the marketplace. And that's what a lot of the seminars that I do are around. So here's question number 6. From which generation do you wish you had more employees?
The generation that values work ethic and commitment. That would probably be mine. Yeah. Generation X.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yep.
How about the generation you enjoy working with the most?
You know, probably the one after us. X, what is it? Maybe Y? Y or Z?
Gen
one of
Y,
those?
also known as millennials. Yeah.
Yes. You know, they are the most creative and smart. They're the most smart beings on the planet. And so with this technical thing, because I'm not all that techie, you know, they help me solve a lot of different issues. You know, my son looks at me like, really, Mom? Stop being old. Really, Mom? You know, and you just can't help but laugh. I mean, you just can't help.
I have made an investment this year in a social media activity. It's not something I ever wanted to have to do. I'm thinking I'm a 54-year-old middle-aged white guy. What am I going to do with a social media presence? But I was convinced to give it a try, and it's the millennials that are engaging this thing. And now I'm beginning to see what they're putting out to promote the speaking side of my business as well as the radio side of my business. And I'm going, oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I know. And, you know, I'll be 50? I think I'm 55 now. I'll be 56 this year. And these kids, the millennial group, they question everything. Unlike us, if they told us something for the most part, okay, we just went with it.
Yeah.
But the amount of things that they force you to look at things in a different way.
Yeah.
So
they do.
You gotta love them.
You gotta love them. It's uncomfortable sometimes, but like me, sitting in that meeting, having them tell me what they wanted to do with my social media, I'm thinking, I don't know that this is good for me. I don't feel comfortable with this, but it's working. All right, next one. I'm very interested. It's Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. What are you most likely to be doing?
Okay, so I'm a foodie. I love to cook. I love to plate food. Plating food is like a DIY for me.
Yeah.
You know, so I typically will work on a Saturday up till maybe about noon. By 4 o'clock, I'm home. I've typically gone to a farmer market if it's during the summer, and I got all these fresh vegetables, and I put all this color together, and I am cooking and relaxing and doing what I do best, you know, and drinking me a glass of wine.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And you're inviting radio hosts over to enjoy it with you, aren't you?
In the future, I may.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a follow-up show that's recorded Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. over a colorful plate of food and a glass of wine.
Yes, yes.
All right, here's the next one. This is the first time we've done this, and I'm enjoying it. You've just won the lottery for $500 million. What's the first thing you're buying, and then what's the first organization you're donating money to?
The first thing I'm buying is something that's going to invest in my business and make it just boom all over the country. That's the first thing I'm doing. The first organization that I'm donating to is probably going to be the food bank.
Oh,
you know, I give a lot of cake. And a lot of my time to our community food bank. You know, obviously I'm in the food industry, and it's what I love.
Quickly, favorite vacation destination?
Easy, Marco Island. I've been going for 25 years. Love it.
How do people find you, April? What's your website?
www.mclung's, Emily'sHeirloomPoundCakes.com. I'm going to spell it real quick. Emily'sHeirloomPoundCakes.com.
April, it's been a delight.
Mm-hmm.
Best wishes. I'm in your camp, sister. I'm a fan. I'll do anything I can for you. Good luck.
Thank you. God bless. Okay.
We'll be right back after this break to wrap it up. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston.
At Roy Lewis Construction, we're in the business of adding value. Whether it's working with you to meet your unique business needs or making investments in our community in lasting ways, providing unparalleled value and quality in every commercial construction project. When planning your next commercial project, reach out to Roy Lewis Construction. We'll pair you with a designer that best suits your project needs and work with that designer to balance the best architectural outcome with the best budget outcome. Find us online at roylewisconstruction.com, building legacies one relationship at a time.
Hi, this is Tony McCarron. When I'm not out recruiting the best and the brightest that the city of Mobile has to offer, I'm listening to What's Working with Cam Marston. Now back to the show.
Well, that was fun. That was absolutely a ball. And though you couldn't see her on the Zoom call, I think maybe you can go to my YouTube page and see her. She is an extraordinarily charismatic woman who's absolutely all in for, it looks like, not just her pound cakes, but nearly everything that she does. A energetic woman. And as I told her after we ended the interview, oh, by the way, to appease my producer, we're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Thank you very much for joining us in this show. We've just finished the interview with April McClung. Her company is Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes. I continue to eat this pound cake. Perhaps you could hear it during the interview as I smack on this thing. It's tasty. She's all in on everything she does. An extraordinary charisma, well-spoken. She's no wonder she's a darling of the media. And I can attest firsthand, she has a product to support. Her website is Emily'sHeirloomPoundCakes.com. Enter that into your search bar. It'll lead you to it. I have this thing in front of me. It's a 7-pound loaf. It's absolutely fantastic. Emily's in the Pelham area, and we continue as this radio show grows to look for guests in the Pelham, the northern Alabama area for two reasons. Number one, my network is mostly here in South Alabama, and I'm able to find stories around here locally through all the networking that I'm doing. But if you're in Tuscaloosa, Gadsden, Huntsville, Birmingham, and you know someone that's got a business story to tell, a really compelling business story to tell, it's not an advertisement. It's a business story that ultimately, let's face it, once people hear the story, whoever it is, it becomes somewhat of an advertisement. But if you know someone in your neck of the woods that I need to know about their story, I want you to reach out directly to me. Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. Or you can go to cammarston.com where you can find all the work that we do, the seminars, the workshops, etc. That's one of the things that I'm going to start beating my own drum about is these the presentations, the workshops, the seminars that I give across the country. I told you a little bit earlier, headed to Baltimore next week to talk about a culture of execution, through much of which I've learned through interviewing different people on the show, the extraordinary importance of a workplace culture in our post-pandemic world. It's the thing that's distinguishing successful companies from those that are kind of average, is a culture of execution. One of the things that April got into, it's Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes, run by April McClung. I need to say that as much for myself as anything. One of the things she talked about is how much she enjoys working with the millennials. And I was happy to hear that. Now, the millennials roughly are, for those of you that don't know this like the back of your hand like I do, it's kind of a big part of my work, born between the years 1980 and 2000. And April's comments on the millennials are sometimes, what she just said, is inverse to the reason I'm going to Baltimore. And they are struggling with commitment, with this culture of execution, with their millennial workforce. And they've asked me to come up and organize content in such a way that I can say to them, here's what I'm seeing in the trends in this generation. Here's how they've been shaped. Here's how they are motivated today. Here are examples of people that are doing it well. And I cite people from the show and things that I've learned from the show. And here is the underlying culture that creates this workforce of execution. And the most important part of the presentation, here's how to create that culture. Workplace culture continues to be a huge part of workplace conversations post-pandemic. It was important pre-pandemic. It's become critical post-pandemic to create this culture of execution. One of the things that my clients are also experiencing that April mentioned is a high demand wage or salary for someone with average, if not below average, capabilities. How do they deal with that? So if this type of thing interests you, if you got an upcoming corporate event, association event, I had one of my listeners reach out, and I'm going down to Gulf Shores in August to do their annual convention to talk a lot about this stuff. Reach out and go on my website. You can see the presentations I do. Go to my YouTube page. You can see video clips of the things that we do. We've got a new one in the works. I'd love to talk to you about it. CamMarston.com. You can find this show as well as others at what'sworkingcam.com. You can find me on social media, and I hope you will. Follow, like, etc. Do all those things. Love doing the show, getting a renewed interest. Got plans for growth. I know you're tired of hearing that, but got plans for growth, and they're slowly come together. You're listening to What's Working, produced by John Thompson, Ion Digital. We'll be back next week.